Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take all that information swirling around and really pull out the crucial bits for you.
Yeah, think of it as your shortcut. We try to make complex stuff understandable, maybe even a little interesting along the way.
Exactly. And today, this one's for the learner. You know, someone who wants to get the important info quickly, get those aha moments, but without getting totally bogged down.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today, we're going to unpack a recent YouTube video. It talks about asylum in the U.S., especially now there's this new government memorandum out.
Right. We want to clarify what this all means, drawing directly from what the speaker in the video shared.
Okay. And the source is a YouTube video. It's called Miedo al asilo y asilo por miedo, CBPY el memo a los jueces, by Berta Mexidor. So let's start with the basics. The video kicks off explaining asylum.
It does. Fundamentally, asylum is this chance, this opportunity to seek refuge once you enter the United States.
Okay.
But it's not just wanting a new life. It's specifically driven by a fear, a well-founded fear of something bad happening if you go back.
And that something bad is what specifically?
Persecution?
Persecution, yeah, or torture, emotional harm, physical harm. Serious stuff.
Gotcha. And the video also goes through the internationally recognized grounds for asylum.
That's right. These are the big categories: your political opinion, religion, race, nationality, and also being part of a particular social group, which can be complex, but it's a key ground.
Right. And it's not just claiming one of these. You have to actually connect your fear to it with evidence.
Precisely. That's often the challenge, showing that link.
Now, the video brought up something interesting about torture. It said it's not just, physical pain.
Not at all. And this is important. The speaker clarifies that torture, whether for asylum or under the Convention Against Torture, can absolutely be psychological, mental,
Right.
and even economic sometimes. The example given was Cuba using really excessive fines. If those fines are directly used to persecute you because of, say, your politics, that could be seen as a form of torture in this context. Wow, okay. Economic pressure as torture. That's quite a point.
It shows how these things can be linked,
So when someone actually applies, there's the form, the application itself, and the video flags a specific part of it.
Yes, the I-589 form. There's a specific question, a box you can check, if you fear being tortured if you're sent back, even if your main asylum claim gets denied.
Ah, so it's like a backup protection.
Exactly. It's a safeguard. It triggers protection under the Convention Against Torture, potentially. It's basically saying, look, even if I don't qualify for asylum under the usual rules, please don't send me back there because I genuinely fear torture.
And the video had an example, a worrying one.
Yeah, the speaker mentioned a case, someone deported to El Salvador despite having checked that box. It really just highlights how critical this provision is and maybe how things can still go wrong.
Okay, now before we go further, the speaker in the video adds a disclaimer, right, about the nature of her advice.
Absolutely crucial. She stresses, this is her opinion, her perspective based on questions she gets. It's not legal advice.
Right.
Anyone in this situation, they really need to talk to an immigration lawyer. Get proper legal counsel for their specific case.
Because every single case is different, even if people come from the same country.
Totally different. The speaker really emphasizes this. Same country, maybe even similar backgrounds, but your personal story, your experiences, the evidence you have, it all makes your case unique.
She used the example of Cubans and the July 11th protests.
Yeah, exactly. Just because someone is Cuban and maybe didn't like the government response to the protests doesn't automatically mean they have the same asylum claim as someone else who was, say, arrested or directly targeted. It's all very individual.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's the setup. Now, this new government memorandum, it's been sent to immigration judges.
That's right. A new memo is out.
And the main point is...
Well, the core message, according to the video's interpretation, is basically telling judges to prioritize reviewing asylum cases, and specifically to identify and dismiss applications that seem frivolous or baseless.
To clear the backlog, presumably?
That seems to be the goal, yeah. Trying to speed things up by weeding out cases that don't appear to have legal merit from the start.
Okay, so let's be clear. This doesn't mean people can't apply for asylum anymore.
No, definitely not. The video is clear on this, too. It doesn't block applications. It doesn't invalidate claims that are already in the system if they're legitimate.
It just means the review might be tougher, more scrutiny.
Exactly. A more rigorous review process, potentially faster decisions on certain types of cases.
And there was a specific phrase mentioned, legally deficient applications. What happens with those?
Yeah, that's a key point from the memo discussed in the video.
Hmm.
It suggests that these applications, the ones that seem legally deficient on paper, might get decided, potentially denied, without even having a full hearing in court.
Whoa, so decided just based on the paperwork?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
If it seems like it just doesn't meet the basic legal requirements. But, and this is important, the speaker also noted that the applicant would still have the right to appeal that decision.
Okay, the right to appeal is still there. Good. What about people already in the system? Say, someone who came through CBP, got papers, has a court date, they're in removal proceeding.
Right. For those individuals already in deportation or removal proceedings, this memo kind of reinforces the situation. They absolutely have to demonstrate they qualify for some kind of protection.
They need to build their case.
They need to build their case, yes.
Huh.
Whether it's asylum or something else, the burden is on them to prove they're eligible.
Now, the video specifically discussed Cubans because they have the Cuban Adjustment Act option too, right?
Yes, a very specific situation. The speaker addressed this question. Can you apply for asylum and also plan to use the Cuban Adjustment Act later?
Which lets Cubans apply for a green card after a year and a day here.
Correct. And the answer given was yes. Legally, you can pursue both paths at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
The speaker used an analogy like getting a second medical opinion. You explore all your legal options.
There's a catch, a warning.
A big warning. The speaker strongly cautions against filing an asylum claim just to buy time if you don't have a real, genuine fear of persecution that fits the asylum criteria.
Because the new memo targets frivolous claims.
Exactly. Filing a weak or baseless asylum claim just to stay in the U.S. until you can use the Adjustment Act is risky now. Those are the kinds of cases this memo seems designed to dismiss quickly.
Okay. Then the conversation shifted, became more personal, about assessing your own fear.
Yes, this was a really thoughtful part of the discussion. The need for individuals to be honest with themselves about why they fear returning to Cuba.
Is it a general fear about the country or something specific to them?
Right. Is it based on your personal history, maybe opposition to the government, things you did?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it more a general unease with the political climate? That distinction is apparently quite important for an asylum case.
And the video touched on a really difficult point, family back home.
Yeah, the dilemma for some Cubans. If they seek asylum here, openly stating their opposition or fear, could there be repercussions for their relatives still in Cuba?
That's a heavy consideration.
Incredibly heavy. It makes the decision intensely personal. The speaker emphasized that ultimately, deciding to seek asylum is tied to your own sense of freedom, your personal story.
There was also a specific question addressed, wasn't there? A mother worried about her daughter. A doctor.
Yes, a direct inquiry mentioned in the video. A mother in Cuba, her daughter is a medical professional in the U.S., and she's afraid of being deported.
And the speaker's response.
Was quite reassuring, actually, suggesting that a Cuban medical professional likely does have grounds to build an asylum case, given the specific pressures and experiences within the Cuban healthcare system, the things they might be forced to do or witness.
So potentially strong grounds there.
Potentially, yes. The message was encouraging. Be free. Pursue safety and happiness here.
Which ties into the bigger picture, right? Freedom, opportunity. The reasons people immigrate in the first place.
Exactly. It broadened out to that universal theme. Why do people come to the U.S.? Political freedom for some, economic opportunity for others.
The speaker also mentioned a kind of lingering effect. Fear or double standards from living under certain regimes.
Yeah, a brief observation about how past experiences under authoritarianism can shape how people think and act, even after they've left. That lingering caution or fear.
But the bottom line kept coming back to personal responsibility and getting help.
Absolutely. Take ownership of your decisions, understand your situation, and critically, get legal advice to know your real options.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive based on the video.
All right. First, that new memo means increased scrutiny. Your asylum case needs to be well-founded, well-documented, more than ever, perhaps.
Okay. Second.
People already in removal proceedings, especially those processed by CBP, need to be proactive. Understand your rights, figure out your path to potential legal status.
And for Cubans specifically.
You can pursue both asylum and the Cuban Adjustment Act, but don't file a frivolous asylum claim just to buy time. That's now riskier.
Got it. And finally?
The decision to seek asylum. It's deeply personal. It comes down to your individual fear, your history, your desire for freedom.
And we absolutely have to repeat the need for actual legal advice.
Cannot stress that enough. This discussion, the video insights, it's all general information. It is not a replacement for sitting down with an immigration attorney who can look at your specific facts.
Definitely. So for you, our listener, maybe the final thought is this. Think about what it really means to seek refuge, to try and build a life somewhere new.
Yeah, and how vital it is to understand the rules, the legal landscape, in navigating that incredible complex journey.
What are the fears, the hopes driving these huge decisions, and how does this changing legal environment shape the choices people have? Something to ponder.